Alright, so Zepla's video, this is like the most requested add-ons, I guess, or something like that by the community. That she's hoping, or I guess people are hoping, that will be added as base UI to the game. Let's see what she has to say then, and what the list is. Hey, Buns.
A couple of Fantasy 14 streamers were given temporary bans for showing multiple third-party tools on stream.
I must say, I do like her blonde hair now more than before for some reason, as well as like more than the red hair for sure. But like, yeah, the blonde looks really good on her.
And at the same time, Yoshi P posted a message to the Lodestone regarding third-party tools. In it, he acknowledged that while all these tools are prohibited by the terms of service, they cannot see what's on your computer, unless you broadcast it to the whole world on Twitch, I guess. And they want to reduce people's reliance on mods by incorporating some of those third-party plugin features into
Yes,
the
there was
base
something about
game.
that.
So, without getting too off track on, the inconsistent enforcement policy, on the questionable ethics of banning someone for using a feature that you agree should be baseline, or the risks that you take by choosing to broadcast yourself using third-party tools, I think it is probably
That's the
better for us
problem.
to focus on solutions now. And I wanted to offer some constructive feedback to the devs by looking at your most popular requests, things that people most would like to see in the game that are currently features provided by mods and third-party tools. So I asked on Twitter, what are some things plugins do that Fantasy 14 really should do by default? What are things that the
Replies maybe
devs
shown in the
could
video.
put in the
Yeah,
game
that's a
as
good
they've stated that
disclaimer.
they want to do, and they already have done? A lot of people really like that little check mark that indicates
Yep,
that you've
Checkmark is
collected a
fantastic.
minion or a mount or something like that already. Well, that was a feature from a mod originally.
Oh, was it?
Amity bars as well as
Oh,
automatic teleport tickets originally came from mods. But keep in mind that no matter how helpful or
oh,
good
yeah, there was something
quality
like
of
that.
life something is, the devs can choose to never put it in the game. Ultimately, that decision is up to them. But I
Yeah,
do think
100%.
feedback matters, and it does inform development, especially in the case of Final Fantasy XIV. I have decided to censor out everyone's name that will be shown in this video because, again, we are talking about prohibited tools, and I will not name any mods specifically. I might show mock-ups, like photoshops of how something could
Yeah.
potentially work, but only if that's necessary for clarification. Just I'm asking you to use your imagination here because I am not making this video to advertise and celebrate every single mod and encourage people to go out and break the terms of service. Okay, this is
Why
meant to be
not? Fuck
feedback for
it.
the devs,
Free for all.
ideas
Party.
for improvement of the game. What I'm saying is do not download mods. Okay, I'm telling you, do not download mods. It's not allowed. Okay, gotta cover my own ass. But in his post, Yoshi P did say that they want to make these improvements to the game inspired from mods so that people won't have to always turn to mods, and not least of all for the console players. So obviously nothing that gives a competitive edge. We're talking about UI improvements, vanity, QOL, no cheating. Obviously, they're not going to put cheats in the game because, I mean, we already have Warrior. So let's see what features you want to see added to the game that are
Big
from mods, mods
true.
that you are totally not using.
Big
So
true.
first of all, before we get into the others, many of you asked for a DPS meter, specifically a personal DPS meter. This was a very popular request that I'd seen
I
in the
wouldn't mind
replies.
that.
Maybe some people said, "Oh, maybe just for Stone Sky Sea." Blah, blah,
Not for
but listen,
parsing,
Yoshi P has been
but
extremely clear about this point. Like, if there's anybody who is the most anti having the DPS meter in the game, it's Yoshi P. There was a live letter that happened in 2020 when he said emphatically that we won't be adding an official parser. He said it will turn everything toxic. We won't implement one ever. And he was shouting. So
oh, so you can do. Okay, so that's what our authors were just talking about, the Excel macro.
he he said people might say it's less efficient, but I don't think a game is fun if all it does is push for efficiency. And here's also a GIF of Yoshi P being
So as far as like official parsers and stuff like that, I'm totally fine with Yoshi P not adding it. What I thought they mean by personal DPS meter is you can just see how much DPS you are doing. You can't compare to others at that point. You just see what you are doing.
asked about adding parsers, and this is the actual face that he made. Okay. Every time you ask for a DPS meter, Yoshi P delays butt sliders. So let's just move on. Far and away, the most popular request that I have seen
Chat
is
bubbles.
chat bubbles.
I
Toggleable chat
100% chat bubbles are
This
gonna
is
be added.
like everybody has been asking for this
Like
and wanting this. It's one
612
of those
will
things that
add
once you see it,
6.12 will add chat
you
bubbles.
really wish that the mods were allowed so you could download it. One of my favorite
One.
mods basically just adds speech bubbles to players, similar to the ones that pop up over NPCs when they talk. Seeing them over players when they're talking makes things much more immersive. You can much more easily tell who's saying what. I can't see the harm if you get the same kind of filter options that you get in chat logs. They are patently wonderful for RP, irreplaceable for streamers, but third-party code is a risk I won't take. Some people miss them
Yeah,
from
okay.
Warcraft. I think even RuneScape had chat bubbles. I'm not completely sure. But also, let us turn them on and off, scale like other UI elements. Another extremely popular request is buff and debuff timers on
Yep.
the party frames. One person said that the big one for me is everyone in the party being able to read buff timers. I am legally blind and literally cannot read my own. My static developed a bunch of really weird strats to deal with that this raids here. It's immensely disability unfriendly.
Good. For real. The static developed a bunch of really weird strats to deal with that. This rate tier, it's immensely disability unfriendly. I mean, I agree, but holy fuck, man! Props to the static. Holy shit!
Really weird strats to deal with that this raids here. It's immensely disability unfriendly. You can see the buff timers on the target bar, but having that in the party frames would be incredibly helpful and nice. Another very popular one, bigger CD timers on ability
Yeah,
icons. So big cooldowns, so
yeah.
you don't need to have a different max-sized hotbar on your screen for big important buttons. Just a big number so you can
Kind of
keep
what I
track.
had, but not because of
Big,
that.
big, big numbers on skill cooldowns. The hover tooltip already supports
And
this. All they need
honestly,
to do
I would say the gray out should be darker. So you can actually see this loading better.
is that an option to have that on the hotbar icon. Gives an adjustment on how big the text can be.
What is
Seriously,
that?
why do I need
Oh,
an
white
add-on for
mage.
this? The ping and FPS counter. Now, Steam does have an FPS overlay, but we don't have any actual latency meter. It's crazy that you cannot see your actual ping to the game server in the
Yeah,
UI. Needing to
that's
open
true.
some Windows
Being
diagnostic ping to
FPS
see the
does
ping
help
is absolutely
sometimes. I want to know if I'm
ridiculous. I have
lagging or not.
semi-unreliable internet access sometimes, and it's useful for me to know my ping without having to alt-tab out, look up the IP for my server, and manually ping the server via
This is
command
true.
prompt. Yeah, I guess just having it in-game would probably be easier.
Yeah,
Better
just a
color
bit.
customization for the entire game. This is kind of an umbrella one because I heard a lot of different suggestions under this category. This includes a lot of different stuff, like allowing players to change the color of AoE telegraphs, both friendly and hostile,
Oh, that would be
choosing
cool.
colors for
Yes.
UI elements like HP and shields, a working colorblind mode. I know that the NVIDIA official shaders for Final Fantasy 14 has a colorblind mode,
Really?
but sure would be nice to have something like that baseline for all players to access officially, including for
Oh
console
shit! Look at
players.
that.
And it's, official and customizable shaders in game. This is an extremely popular request. Someone
Hmm.
said, I would love a boost in the in-game values or a way to toggle the hues and values. I have a very poor vision.
Visuals, not values. A way to toggle the hues of values. I have really poor vision, and as beautiful as this game is, it's so gray. It's sometimes very hard to see what's going on, even though I play on a TV with excellent
And as
graphics.
beautiful as the game is, it's
Yeah, I
so
think that's a good
gray. It's
one.
sometimes very hard to see what's
Again,
going
it's an
on,
accessibility
even
thing,
though I
so
play on a
personally I don't
TV
care, but
with excellent graphics. I'd also love if we could change the colors of AoEs or other mechanic markers. There's some dungeons where the orange AoE just vanishes into the ground.
this is true. Um, so far I haven't had like a real issue with this because most of the only time I have an issue with this is actually like P3S to an extent, where the floor is kind of the same, is almost the same color. So if you're not really paying attention and you miss it for a second, you're kind of fucked. But yeah. Well, then again, P3S, actually the example, P3S, it's like if you see the marker, you're already in it, so you're fucked.
Can't think of any
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly the one.
It's like that. Working colorblind modes that are actually beneficial to more people. Shaders in the game, not just for accessibility, but so many people complained the game is just too grayscale and too desaturated by default. Another big one, being able to tell whether something is physical or magical damage.
Big one,
Some kind of
yes.
indicator on what is magical and what is physical damage. It drives me
Yes.
insane that I can rarely figure out what to use Addle or Fate, etc. on because I can't tell what counts as what damage. Sometimes it's obvious, but often it's not. And actually,
It's
I
true.
recall a conversation with the UI designer that happened at a live letter on October 9th, 2020, when
Jesus.
they were asked about this. Someone brought up that it would be great if you could see.
Wait a second. Yo, Yoshi P has the Asmongold teeth, huh?
They were asked about this. Someone brought up that it would be great if you could see whether an attack was physical or magical, perhaps in a little pop up window. And the UI designer, Kei Odagiri, said, oh, yeah, that would probably be handy. But with the
Oh
current
shit.
system, as how the packet transfer works as a UI team, we can't do anything about this. Yoshi said if we wanted, we could probably do it. I understand it'd be useful if you could see this, but the reason we haven't implemented it is because we always work on battle changes until a few days before a patch, and we often have to do last minute changes. If we added more features that rely on this information, it would delay development. It could overwhelm the quality assurance team. So basically, their excuse for not adding it back at that time when it was asked about was that it could delay development or just be additional checks for QA. Um, actually during this same interview, which is relevant to the next big request that I heard from a lot of people, was regarding job icons. Having the job icons on the target bar, on the target of target bar, on nameplates, even the job icon in chat next to the name. Job icons next to nameplates so I can res other people who have a res more easily in content like alliance raids instead of mistaking black mage staff or white mage staff every time.
I
Seeing
didn't even know that
these
was a
job
thing.
icons in front
I
of players'
guess
names could also
I guess
help
my
if
party
you're
family are
attacking
like
trials and raids like 24 mans to make it clear if the person being targeted is
my
a mage
add-ons
anyway
already
or
taken
not.
care of that,
But
so I didn't
again,
even know.
going back to this interview with the UI designer from 2020, someone had asked about that as well. He said it would actually be very difficult to implement because they would have to replace a different feature they have in the nameplate or would have to rework it completely. The nameplate has actually been the most difficult and hard part when we first were making the game during the design process of the UI. Just like he said, we'd have to get rid of the online status, for example, to make space for it. However, I do want to point out that even though they said it would be difficult, it could be impossible, in that very same interview, they had been asked about, well, maybe we could have some way to tell if we've already collected a minion, and Yoshi P had said that it was something that was not possible to implement. So, like, judging by the fact that that has been implemented, kind of casts doubt on the other things that they said is
So
not possible.
well, here's the thing, right? So these things that they said that are hard to do or like impossible to do and whatever, I'm not saying this like, well, you can't do it, but mods can. First of all, mods took forever. Like it took like 4 months for some of the mods and more. That's like 4 months that, and like these are people who are like their job is to do mods, and it's a group of people like 10, 20. Imagine taking away 10, 20 people from the development team to work on mods. Maybe it will take 2 months instead of 4 months because they might have better tools, right? But you wouldn't put that many people. You would put like 1 or 2 people on it, and that would take a lot longer at that point, right? And so yeah, so the people who are doing the mods are doing it outside of the development time that takes to do the what's called the game. That's why I'm saying all you gotta do really is have a conversation between the developers and the modders and just come to an agreement that all the mods go through Final Fantasy devs for approval. If they are approved, mainly the UI ones, the what's called um, the chat bubbles, things like that, like the ones that are like not, not like extremely against TOS, and just be like, yo, okay, this is approved. Yo, this is approved. Okay, this one, no, not approved. Right, and that's it. Right, like that's really all it comes down to. And then they don't have, it's like literally like using a third party to develop stuff that you don't have time for because you don't want to take time away from your own development, right? And just like implement into the game, not as like default, but like into like how XIV launcher works, right? Dude, talk with the XIV launcher, integrate their plugin into the regular what's called 14 launcher, and have certain mods that you can choose from a menu in there, and that's it. These are mods that are approved by the game dev. Boom, you can use them. That's it. Like it's not, I don't think it's as complicated as literally remaking the UI.
or way too difficult to implement, you know. Death recap. So this is a really important one. It's something that just shows you how much HP
Yes.
you had when you got hit, how much you got hit for, what hit
Nice.
you, what defensive buffs you had
Boom.
up, and the same for healing, just in a much more readable and a helpful
Yep.
format than
Bobber.
scrolling through the battle log. Like, what happened? I need to know what killed me and how hard. Name of the song
Yeah.
that's playing, very popular, very harmless and simple add-on, just so you can look it up later for your playlist. Fancy loading screens that just shows concept art when you're loading between zones.
See, this one I don't think they would do. Only because like you're not supposed to play this music outside of the game, kind of. That's what it was in their copyright thing. Like you're not supposed to use it. You can use it for entertainment, I guess, but it's like you're not supposed to like broadcast it. So I don't see them like encouraging this type of behavior as a whole.
Playlists, fancy loading screens that just shows concept art when you're loading between zones. Just add some immersion when you're teleporting. I've also seen some suggestions for fixing the main menu option on the starting screen so that it stays after a logout. Like maybe you're in the mood for having this snowy Heavensward starting screen because it's hot as balls outside. Could just be speaking for myself.
I don't
And also
even.
ability to
Well, I
disable
actually
the
never
cinematic
changed the.
autoplay because some of those cinematics can be a bit spoilery for new players. This is a really major and really important one, improving the netcode to help solve ping and clipping issues. Someone said that something major for me is ping mitigation tools. As a player with higher ping, it makes some jobs almost impossible to play correctly. I don't want to have to
Samurai
swap off of my
and
favorite job in raid just
ninja
because of my ping. It feels terrible,
and
and
monk, I
I just want to
guess,
play well
as far
for
as
my
I can
team.
tell.
So there is a mod that allows people to edit what kind of packets the Final Fantasy 14 servers receive, which is changing up your ping and allowing you to play like you normally would if you lived close to the servers. However, it can be edited to allow actual cheating like triple weaving. So
Oh,
because of that, this is in my category
oh,
of what I
that's
think is an
what.
incredibly dangerous tool, and I'm bringing it up because I think that it's very, very important that the devs will improve the netcode to help solve these ping and clipping issues so that people will not feel the need to turn to add-ons that can be potentially abused
And to look
for
what triple
cheating.
weaving is,
I
because I'm
think
pretty
that
sure
this would help
I
improve
get triple weaving
people's
done on
play
my samurai
experience
multiple times.
enormously. It would allow people
I
to
don't
use
use any add-on
limitations
like that.
properly, play certain jobs that they maybe stayed away from because
I might be double
their
weaving
ping is
though,
too
so
bad, and AoE snapshots from enemies would not be affected. I know that this was asked about in the
I
Q
guess
and
I'm double
A
weaving, yeah,
during
not
the
triple.
Endwalker media tour, and Yoshi P was like unaware of there being any kind of ping issues with people's rotation, which is a bit baffling. But this would definitely fix some of the PvP related netcode issues as well and help make that more playable for people too. So I've heard from a lot of people who turn to mods for complete UI overhauls. So some different things that I can suggest: better UI modularity. A lot of people requested a split HP and mana bar. Minimalist UI features
Please.
like transparencies on inactive windows. I personally would love that. Back in my World of Warcraft days, I loved real UI, and then later on Elv UI, especially Preach had a really good preset for Elv UI.
Yeah.
I prefer minimalist UIs myself, so I would like to see more UI themes, more modern themes with sharper looks, with better color customization. Like I'm sure
That's
plenty of people would love to use the classic theme if it didn't look like staring at the Ark of the Covenant.
yeah,
For
yeah.
UI sets.
Ugh.
There's only 4, which feels pretty restrictive, and I'm actually using one of my UI sets for a macro job change menu, which is
Dang.
also a jank solution to a problem with the UI. Lots of people even fill up entire hotbars with all their different job buttons. Like,
That's
this
what I
is a
do.
problem that can be solved by having a normal job switch menu in the UI. It should also officially fix inconsistencies between job gauge information, because there are some jobs that show the duration of their main buff, but
Yep.
Warrior, for example, doesn't.
Yep.
Showing shields on all HP bars rather than just on the party frames. Someone said, I'm desperate to see shields through my actual health bar. There's a shield applied to me right now, but I have no clue how much it is. It doesn't help that when I'm not in a party, there's no way to tell at all. Someone on the official forums posted a mock-up of how it could look to see barriers appear on nameplates and other bars besides just the party list. HP shown on the monsters bar instead of just as a percentage. I think there's something really fun and special about meeting a new boss and you're like, holy shit, 5 million HP. Like, it's definitely gives you a better idea of what you're up against than just 100%, right? lots of suggestions for different kinds of
Sure.
buff and debuff customization, like make your debuffs larger than other people's, makes it easier to tell if I need to refresh a dot at a quick glance, especially if there's a ton of other debuffs on the target. The ability to change color.
Honestly, I would just say have it be possible to show debuffs on the enemy that are only relevant to you. Like for example, the ninja vulnerability debuff, that's valuable to you. Show that. Don't show me that the other white mage or whatever, like scholar, have another dot on the enemy. I don't care about that. It makes no difference to me.
On different buffs and debuffs. I know some people can't see the shade of green. It looks white to them, and it is mega unhelpful. Showing debuffs on nameplates, showing debuffs on the enemy list, and what I really like, buff filtering out debuffs that you don't care about. Someone said I would like to be able to choose and
Yeah.
toggle the debuffs on the enemy that we apply. Like, I don't need to see the timer for Goring Blade that my paladin applied, but I want to see Trick Attack.
Yes.
So here's a mod that I
That's
feel
what
sort
I'm.
of
Yeah,
similarly
exactly what I just said.
about as the ping mitigation tools that people use. It relies on some technology that can be abused. This is similar to tech that allows bots to go out of bounds because it's allowing players to move objects out of bounds in the interest of making the housing system easier to use. Someone said, I don't know what it's called, but there's an add-on that expands the building system to be way more comfortable to use and allows for way more creativity with their builds. I'm very into building games, and Fallout 14's building system interface needs some love in a big way. So I do feel that this is an example of an add-on that has some technology, at least, that could be abused, could be exploited, and because of that, it should be a priority for Square Enix to fix their housing systems if people don't feel the need to turn to this type of add-on. But currently, trying to make a creative build in a house is very difficult without doing glitching. Someone said easy housing. Glitching is hard and takes time. We really need a new system for housing actions. Not everyone has time for glitching a wall. Not everyone even wants to try. I don't use any mods, but I know about a housing one that uses coordinates to place furniture that makes decorating a lot easier. Housing XYZ coordinates, like in add-on, like for the love of God. Yeah, this is something a lot of players really want. Just have a furnishing placement system similar to what they have in Elder Scrolls Online, where you can really just stick a statue or whatever in the middle of the sky. Like you just stick it right and suspend it in air, not sitting on top of anything. Just wherever your heart desires to put something, you can put it there. It does not matter. I think
I didn't know you could do that.
Something similar. Yeah,
that's pretty cool, actually.
Honestly, I think that is one thing that Fallout can probably learn from Elder Scrolls On is the housing system. Text to speech for quests and maybe some other text that you see in the game, just a way to read out stuff for people.
Like I said, like this is I mentioned it in a different video. This could be a great accessibility thing. Again, I don't care if you hear the boss ability. Honestly, I think more people than just like the reading impaired would use. I think like almost everyone would use it. But again, if it only tells you the name, like it tells you the name of the ability, it doesn't tell you where to move, I think that's totally fine.
Dyslexia or lose focus easily. Maybe it's also could be time just to add more voice acting to Realm Reborn and other parts of the game that really could use it, and it's very lacking. I think
I don't think old content really matters in that regard.
At Elder Scrolls Online, where like every single quest is voice acted, right?
I love Rose of Dar.
There's a ton of other third-party tools and mods that provide
countless
other
shit.
features for people, but I wanted to go over the main ones, the most popular ones, what is most in demand that Square Enix could feasibly put into the game. I do want to make an important note here, though, about add-ons as accessibility tools. We mentioned it here and there throughout this, talking about text-to-speech for people with dyslexia, talking about better color customization for the entire game for people with visual impairment or color blindness. And, there's a lot of people who do turn to add-ons to make the game playable for some sort of medical reason. So I think that in Square's endeavor to add plug-in features to the game officially, they should also prioritize finding ways to make the game more accessible for these players. And that is something that they need to figure out, preferably with the assistance and input of disabled people. Maybe working to innovate new kinds of controllers or input devices, to think of some creative solutions that can go farther.
I mean, sure. I don't think
more comfortably than third-party apps.
I think reaching out to enough people with certain disabilities is harder than just coming up with solutions to certain disabilities that are more prevalent. I think like that would be like way too hard to like reach enough people for their opinions on how to make the game better that have disabilities. What they can do is make a survey of like if you have any disabilities, like list your disability here, and then they could have like a what do you call it, the pie thing, and shows percentages of how many people have what disability and shit like that, and then they can work their way down from like the highest percentage to the lowest one, something like that. But yeah,
add-ons. There was actually a
they
really
don't
good
need to
article
directly
from
work with those
Eurogamer
people.
by Ben Bayless, who is a deaf hearing aid user himself, in which he talked to some accessibility mod developers for games like God of War, Cuphead, Hades,
Yeah,
Stardew Valley, Hearthstone, and here he was talking to a
Hearthstone.
disabled accessibility consultant, Paul Lane. While mods can make a game more accessible, it's important that studios don't rely on third party mods. It's important they ensure games are being developed with accessibility in mind. Now,
100%.
obviously, Square Enix is not officially relying on third party mods, but there are a lot of people who
But
are
they are
unable to play the
not
game
officially, but
because
they
of those
are.
third party mods. So I think
Yeah,
that the principle still applies here. Accessibility should be a key part of a game's fabric, not something that's added later.
yep.
I also have a message for the devs
I
from
agree.
an anonymous source, a plugin developer who creates quality of life, unintrusive add ons.
I agree from like big devs. I don't like if you're an indie dev and like you're already like barely like making it through the month trying to like release your game and like you're like running out of money. I don't think accessibility is something you should focus on. I think releasing the game as soon as possible is, but games with budgets, yeah, fuck it. Like go with the accessibility and like make sure your game is ready, of course.
For the game. I'd personally ask from the plugin developer community. We appreciate everything that Square Enix has done so far and their honest interest in improving the game. We'd like to help as much as we can in finding solutions for improvement.
Wait. Who's this?
We appreciate game. I'd personally ask
Who?
should be a key part of a game's fabric, not something that's added later.
Who was it?
I also have a message for the devs from an anonymous source, a plugin developer
Oh,
who
okay.
creates
Plugin
quality
developer.
of life, unintrusive add ons for the game. I'd personally ask from the plugin developer community. We appreciate everything that Square Enix has done so far and their honest interest in improving the game. We'd like to help as much as we can in finding solutions for improvement. We don't do it for the game's harm, we do it for passion for the game. If we had Square Enix endorse it and heavily moderate what plugins are capable of doing and providing us official tools to make everything more trustworthy and secure, we'd happily code with a smile on our faces. Any developer should know how it feels to finish a project and get it to be acknowledged and appreciated. And I can
That's
tell you
fair.
that based on what I have heard from these devs, that they do not want to cause harm to Square Enix or the community, and they actively work to prevent
Not
it.
these
They
ones,
do
but
what they do
some.
to try to make the game better, to solve problems that they see, problems that the devs don't have the time or the resources to solve.
100%.
And it is not to give people an unfair advantage or to hurt other players' experiences. The ones
Yeah,
that I have
these are
spoken to
passion projects
heavily restrict their
that
API,
make the game
so
better
it
for other
cannot be
people.
used for hacks, bots, or cheating. And they discourage anyone from streaming with third party plugins shown on stream. I've also heavily discouraged anyone from doing that. Now, some people will roll their eyes at that and say, it just doesn't matter because it's all against the terms of service. And that's true. It is in the end.
TOS can be changed. I mean, it's not the word of God, and word of God has been changed multiple times. Like "Thou shalt not murder." I see a lot of murders in the streets. Okay, not my streets, but obviously, um, it's like it's not the word of God. I mean, it's a TOS. They can change it at a heartbeat. Like it's not that big of a deal. Well, not a heartbeat. Like they have to go through lawyers, whatever. But it's like it's not that hard to change the TOS, especially when it comes to this. And also they won't be considered third-party tools if they're acknowledged by the game dev. They can consider first-party tools, whatever it's called when like it's part of the game.
Like, I'm not saying that these people, just because they have noble goals, that the rules don't apply to them. What I am saying is that modding has often had a collaborative role in the development of games, including
I would
this
say
one.
not always. In the West, it pretty much not everywhere else in the world though.
As we've seen with, mod
Don't give me that look, Zepla.
previously mod features being added to the game, and now they stated they want to keep doing that. And so I think that the best way to get rid of them is to
Cooperate with them.
improve the game so that they're not needed, or as the mod I spoke to
You will
said,
never improve the game enough like I don't think we would have enough time to improve the game enough to have no mods at all. Work with the modders, have them be like a second party or third party you use to develop your game, and make sure that whatever they release just gets the okay from Square Enix, and that's it.
Suggested to endorse and to heavily moderate what plugins are capable of doing. So that's all for today's video. Again, I want to reiterate that I did not make this video to promote any mods. That's why I didn't mention any in it. I am really just wanting to share feedback with the developers at things players want the most, and maybe you can tell me some features from mods, maybe in a vague way, that you would like to see. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you like this video, please consider supporting the channel on Patreon or on Twitch. You can also support the channel for free by clicking the subscribe button or by sharing this video with your fellow warriors of light. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Yeah, overall good video. Honestly, I like that she did that little poll with her Twitter. Oh, phone because it's actually like it is interesting to see what people like. Honestly, there were some mods that I didn't even know existed, and I did because I'm using mods for a bit for a while. I guess I haven't even known that some mods like that were doing what they're doing because I thought that's like part of the default UI, but apparently it wasn't. So apparently I have some mods that already help out. But yeah. Um, Anyways, yeah, good video by Zepla. Much appreciated that you did that little survey. And yeah, we'll go on to the next one.